girls. First of all, I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. I know I've said it in our messages and whatnot, but I've been crocheting over 25 years and knitting for about 20, and I really just love both things. When I'm knitting, it's really a relaxing activity for me. I love to go to the knit stores and pick out great yarns, imagine what I'll make with that item, and you will see that if you become obsessed with knitting or crocheting, that you will end up, you'll see that on Ravelry. If you haven't joined Ravelry, you need to join Ravelry. It's Facebook for knitters or crocheters or any kind of anything that you do with your hands, basically. So you need to join Ravelry, and you'll be able to go on there and see everybody's projects, see what kind of yarn they used, what color combinations they used, get ideas. Oh, I have this type of yarn. What projects would be good for that? And because every yarn weight is different from another. You can have lace weight, which is going to be extremely thin. You can have sport weight, which is a medium to thin yarn. Worsted, which is what I'm making your gifts out of, which is a little bit heavier, but not bulky. They have probably about 15 different types of weights that are out there, or even more, and then different mixtures of different types of yarn. So if you're going to Michael's or Joann's, places like that, you're going to get a lot of acrylic yarn, which is really great for projects that, well, one, when you're starting, if you don't want to spend a ton of money on yarn to see if you really like doing this, acrylic yarn is great for that. It's also good for items like if you want to give a gift away but you don't want to spend a lot of money, because as you will see, anything like crochet or knitting is going to take you a pretty long time, especially, like I said, I've been doing it for a long time, and I am typically a little bit slower knitter, and so projects, and because I can't just sit home all day knitting, they do take me a lot longer than somebody else that can knit a lot faster. So when you decide to give a gift away, you really hope that you're giving it to somebody that will appreciate the effort, the time, the money that went into the gift. So, but anyway, so you'll learn that if you do love it, that there are, you should have a local yarn store, local yarn shop by you. If you do not, I can give you a ton of recommendations for online purchasing. I exclusively knit, usually I would say 90% of the time, with hand-dyed yarn by indie dyers, or dyers that have made it to the big leagues in the yarny world. And you just have a completely different look, quality, from, say, something that's machine made and machine dyed. There are some projects that you would want to use maybe a better yarn, but it is machine dyed, because most all of them, the dye lots are going to be the same. You don't worry about what they call pooling, which is if you start a new skein of yarn, it looks differently from the first one because it isn't machine dyed, it's hand dyed. So I think that's kind of like my first little spiel. So I kind of pulled this. This is something that would be machine dyed. I think it's kind of a Michael's type yarn, more acrylic. A lot of times you can tell you can feel the acrylic in the yarn. It kind of feels a little crunchy, if that makes sense. You can get softer yarns as opposed to the real acrylic yarns, but I know like Red Heart that they have a lot at Michael's. You can really feel the acrylic in that. And then this is something, this would be like a hand dyed, of course. This is, it's kind of hard to see because it's pink, and pink is always hard to see. This is the blue that I'm making your gifties out of. It's hand dyed. It's also kind of hard to photograph. And just so you know, so you can see the difference, you can hand wind, which you would get a ball like this. You can wind it with a winder, which I have a winder, or when you usually go into your local yarn shops, they will offer to wind your yarn for you. So this is what they call a cake. And they're super cute. If you hand wind it, you're only going to be able to pull from one side. I know in the video that you had shown me, she recommended pulling from the inside, and I kind of have a different opinion on that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes I have wanted to kill myself because I did that. Sometimes it gets completely tangled because you're pulling from the inner portion of the skein. So a lot of times I will knit from the outer portion. What I do is they have really inexpensive little bags like this. Little bags, like little project bags. And so what I do is I will put my yarn in the project bag, and then I will just knit with it in the bag, and it doesn't ever really get tangled. So, and that is when you're hand winding your yarn. Right now you guys have something that is already in essentially a ball, which you do not have to wind, which is nice. But if you ever have to hand wind, you just want to be really careful. I can show you a couple different techniques of how to do it. It's not like real professional or anything special, but it just makes it easier because it's so easy to get your yarn twisted and in a knot, and it will never come undone unless you send it to they have groups on Ravelry that the women on there love to untangle yarn, and that's what they have this group for. So you can send your yarn to them. They will untangle it and send it back for free. So anyway, let's see, I'm trying to think if there was anything else I was going to kind of share. For crocheting, if you do really love crocheting, one thing that I would highly recommend is the Addi Turbo, ADDI Turbo crochet set. It is ergonomically correct, so that when you hold it, it just it doesn't hurt your hands. I mean, I'm still young, I'm 36, but especially with crocheting, it doesn't really happen with knitting because I hold it differently. But, and again, I think I said, the way I hold my yarn for crocheting is not necessarily textbook, oh, that's the way you should hold it, but it's the way I got used to holding it. And I cannot knit when a lot of the videos that you see, I can't, it's not enough tension for me because I have to be kind of, I feel like if I'm not in control of it, I lose the project. So anyway, so this is a great crochet needle or hook that I highly recommend. They have a whole set, or you can buy them individually. And when we get to knitting, there's a whole, you can get knitting needles that are made out of bamboo. You can get straight needles, you can get circular, which I love circular. You can get metal ones, you can get lace weight. They have interchangeable kits, which I would highly recommend because you end up saving money that way. So anyways, when we get to that point, I can let you know all the stuff. So anyways, so I'm knitting with, or crocheting with a 3.75, which is a pretty, is a smaller crochet hook.